in my upcoming book, Under Hood Thumb, which won't be out until April, so you're hearing it first. Okay. It's called Hound and Hare. So you're a hasher, you're a runner, you run races? I mean, that's cool. I met him in a downtown bar. I was there for a porn film release party. He was there with his running group. Not exactly, he said. CL! One of his buddies gave him the thumbs up salute as he left the bar. He saluted back with a raised glass. So your name's CL? Tom, he said. Hashing isn't racing, it's just for fun. It's this international runners club that got its start in the British Army back in the 30s. It's about beer and running, like running for beer. Like we have this slogan, drinkers with a running problem. He took a draught from his pint and explained the concept to me. Evidently, it's a hounds and hare thing. Someone is the hare and that person sets the course. He or she lays down marks and signs for the runners or the hounds to follow. The course doesn't follow any reasonable route to get from the start to the finish, where there's always beer. It can go through buildings, across playgrounds. It usually doubles back on itself a few times. That's here in New York. If you were running in, say, Florida, the course might take you through the town to the beach and double back, leading you through a muddy swamp before you ended up at the beer. The course is usually several miles and takes a few hours to complete. Much of that time put to use trying to find the next sign and drinking beer in pubs that might lead you through along the way. The trail is marked with chalk or charcoal or flour, something that isn't permanent. The marks might be on the sidewalk, the sides of buildings, the street lamps, anywhere, and God help you if it rains and washes away a lot of the signs. Sometimes people run in costumes. Some places where they can do it without getting arrested, they might even run naked. It's kind of a big moving party. Sounds like fun, I said. But if your name's Tom, why did that guy call you CL? Oh, that's my hasher name. A woman in hot pink running shorts and a black tank top with a graphic of a box of Trojan condoms and a slogan under it that said, "Be prepared," wandered past. She was drinking a pint of something light. When she got close, she caught Tom's eye, and with her free hand, she pulled her shirt down and part of her racing bra down to expose one of her breasts. She readjusted her clothing and then made the universal "I'm watching you" sign with 2 fingers before moving on. That your girlfriend? Nah, she's just a friend. So, CL, huh? What does it stand for, I asked. Well, so, one day I was running in running shorts that were really loose and short, without a jock, and I guess my junk kind of spilled out, you know? So at the end of the run, I got my hasher name. Someone said, someone ought to lock that up, so now and forever, I'm Cocky Locky. He looked slightly embarrassed, but then he gave me this glorious smile, so not too embarrassed. Ever had it locked up? He looked at me and then down and smiled again. Want to? He took a drink of beer. I'd be happy to lock it up for you. Another beer on his part and another vodka on mine, and I suggested he follow me home. He seemed happy to comply. We got to know each other over the next few weeks. It actually wasn't until our second date that I locked his cock up. The first night was spent exploring each other's body, learning what was a turn on and what was a turn off. Like he learned that I liked receiving head, and I learned that he liked having his balls fondled. He even liked it a little rough, which I found absolutely charming. He also found that my discovering he liked rough handling was a great turn on for me. He liked having his nipples bitten. That alone produced copious amounts of pre-cum, and though he was shy about it and sort of shocked when I first did it, he seemed to enjoy having me play with his ass. Of course, I knew what turned me on, but watching him discover it also turned him on, seemed to be something very new for him. I suppose he'd been happy fucking the random girl or being in vanilla relationships before. Somehow, he'd never realized what he really wanted. Or maybe he had, but had never had the opportunity to act on it. So my taking control ended up being a revelation for him. Being a runner, Tom had a great body. Nice, compact, tight ass, concave on the sides, long, sinewy, muscular legs, long, thin fingers, and pretty feet. He was strong and wiry with short brown hair and hooded dark brown eyes, which I found uber sexy. So on our second date, we met for Chinese food at a place close to the bar. From there, we went to another bar to hear a local band that seemed poised to become the next big thing. And then, since he seemed up for it and was reasonably well lubricated, I dragged him to my lair to do, or at least suggest, all manner of evil things to him. I live on the Lower East Side in a fifth-floor walk-up apartment. It was really close to the bar we just vacated, but it's that 5-story climb that will get you, especially if you aren't used to it. Being a runner, Tom managed it pretty well, but was more winded than I by the time he made it to the top. Once inside the apartment, I pushed him down on the couch and stripped him, telling him he'd cool off faster that way. And anyway, I enjoyed running my hands through the sweat on his chest. I pulled off his jeans and underwear, lime green, cool, and then watched his cock as I stood and slowly stripped down to bra and panties. He seemed to appreciate the sheer black lace covering my tits and pussy. With a hand on his cock, teasing it with my fingertips, I backed up and led him into the bedroom. Pushing him down on the bed, I climbed on top and ground full length against him, initiating a deep kiss. I snaked my hand underneath his body and wrapped it around his hard cock, pulling and stretching it between us. He groaned into my mouth and grabbed my ass, pushing me tighter to him. "Do you know what BDSM is?" I asked him, licking and scraping my teeth over his nipples. Sure, I've seen it on the internet. Why? Do you want me to do that stuff to you, tie you up and stuff? "No, Tom," I said. I bit down on his nipple and he arched his back. Pushing his groin against me, groaned. I smiled at him. "No, sweetie, I'm going to do that stuff to you." He felt his cock jump against me as I pushed him back against the bed. "But I never did. I don't think." "Relax, CL, you'll love it," I said, pushing myself into a sitting position atop his hips and toying with his cock. I held it against my lace-covered cunt and rubbed it against myself. That night, I introduced him to a few toys: clothespins for his nipples, which turned his cock into a leaky faucet, a padded leather paddle for his perfect runner's butt, which pinked up nicely with a few gentle swats, and a blindfold for sex. The blindfold seemed to make the biggest impression on him, bigger even than the clothespins. I tied his wrists to the bed with scarves, figuring I'd save the actual leather cuffs until he was a bit more comfortable with the whole idea. Once his hands were immobilized, I introduced the blindfold. His breathing sped, and his head moved jerkily every time I moved or made a sound. He jumped when I scratched at his nipples with my fingernails, and jumped again when I lowered my mouth to his cock and swirled my tongue around its head. When I pulled on his balls, he moaned and pushed his groin into my hands. "Oh, you like that, do you?" I gently smacked his cock with my free hand. He sucked in a breath and his cock jerked but stayed hard. I smacked it a little harder, fascinated to see how his body would react. "Motherfucker!" he yelled, but thrust himself toward me at the same time. He bit his upper lip. "Like that, do you?" I asked. I lowered my mouth to him again. Again he jumped, but then relaxed. "Jesus Christ, this is fucking unreal," he said. "Oh, honey, this is nothing. Just you wait," I said, pulling the blindfold off. "I have such plans for you." Without untying his wrists, I smoothed the condom on him and pushed my panties to the side as I slid onto him, taking him into the root, grinding hard against him. The sex, while short, was good. I knew he wouldn't be able to last very long after getting him that excited, but that was all right. We'd work on it. I left him tied to the bed while I removed the filled condom and cleaned him up. "Are you seeing anyone?" I asked. "No," he said. "Just you if you want to." "When's your next run?" "Saturday afternoon." "Why?" It was Thursday. Who knew if either of us would be any good at work tomorrow, but whatever, it would be Friday anyway. I got off the bed and went over to the dresser to retrieve a box. "I have a present for you," I said, opening the box and taking out the chastity device. Before he could say anything or see what I had held, I snapped it onto his now flaccid cock and balls. I closed the little plastic lock and showed him the key, which I put inside a little ornate box on the bedside table. "I told you I'd lock it up for you. By the way, I never got to come. Do you think that's right? Do you think it's right that you get to come and I don't?" His mouth formed an O. "Oh, shit. Sorry. I didn't mean to, you want me to, I could eat you or something." He grinned his best cute little boy grin and cocked his head. "You want to untie my hands?" "No, that's okay." I leaned back away from him and took my bra off, then removed my panties. "I can do it." On my knees between his legs, I began to masturbate. I was already wet from our earlier games and from putting him in chastity, so my fingers slipped inside easily. I pumped in and out a few times before adding a second finger, pumping them both more vigorously, making that wet, sucking, slurping sound. He pulled his knees up and humped the air. Unfortunately, there was no way for him to get hard while wearing the device. In fact, the act of arousal was a bit painful. I could tell he wanted to touch himself, but his hands were restrained. And of course, I knew that even if he had use of them, it wouldn't have done him any good. The device wouldn't allow his fingers inside. He was locked up tight, but he'd easily be able to bathe and attend to business, although peeing would be much easier and far less messy sitting down. Ah, well, he'd find that out on his own. Just the thought made me squeeze my breast and pinch the nipple before bringing the hand down to circle my clit with the other hand, pumped inside. The more I thought about his arousal, the louder the little obscene noises coming from my pussy got. The louder the noises got, the more tortured he looked, poor baby. When he gave a strangled cry, I caved. It was a nice, long orgasm with lots of little afterplays, just the release I needed. I removed my fingers from my cunt and held them under his nose before pushing them into his mouth. He closed his eyes and sucked on them, wrapping his tongue between and around them, cleaning every little bit of cum off them before I withdrew them and untied his wrists. Wow, that was fucking amazing, he said. He reached between his legs to explore the device attached to his genitals. Mind if I look, he asked? Of course not. Be my guest, I replied, smiling. He jumped off the bed, walked over to the full-length mirror by my closet. He turned this way and that, and pumped the air, looking at the chastity page. He ran his fingers over it, and again, he whistled. That's pretty cool. He looked up and smiled at me. So, okay, take it off. No, cocky Locky, you'll remain locked up all tomorrow and through the run on Saturday. That way you can be sure your junk won't fall out of your shorts again. But I don't wear those shorts anymore, he said. Be that as it may, you're going to remain locked up until I release you. You can call me from the bar at the end of the run and I'll meet you there. Does that sound good? He gave me a look. Well, whatever, it won't come off until Saturday, if I take it off then. We'll see, he gasped. Here, I handed him his underwear and pants. Put these on. Looking at me the whole time, he stepped into his underwear and gingerly pulled them up, then did the same with his jeans. When he was dressed, I put my clothes back on too. See? No one can tell you're wearing it. You'll be fine. I stepped in for a kiss and grabbed his ass, shoving myself against his crotch. Call me tomorrow night after work. With the final kiss, I let him out the door. Get home safe, I said. That night, I thought of all the fun we could have. We could have our own hash, maybe a sort of scavenger hunt hash. I could set the trail with lots of stops along the way for him to pick up little fun items, perform small tasks with the run-in and here, or maybe a bar where he'd have to show me what he found, or maybe, now that organism was truly mind-blowing.